9 catches, 101 yards, a touchdown. One of his catches was also not a pick. So I give him extra credit for that. His last catch when the ball was fluttering in the air. He came over and made a play on it. And just was everywhere. I mean, felt like a primetime player, war daddy, PT peer. The numbers weren't as big, but it kind of felt like in a weird way he was going toe to toe with Devontae. And he was just there. He was there every time it felt like the Niners needed him outside of, that stumble, drop, whatever. I give him a little slack on that. It was if you look back, like it's one of his biggest games just statistically of his career. And it was one of the most important for sure.
If you've watched him play all season, and most people listening have, like the way he carries himself like every single game. I'm going 10 for 120. And he runs routes. He gets open. You see the NFL tweeted Instagram something out of his routes, and all the guys were like reposting it of him just getting open all season long. And the thing I respect most about Davante Adams is he doesn't say much. He doesn't feel like he's barking at the other team, or he's like the opposite of like a Jalen Ramsey, some of the Terrell Owens over the years. Like, and it's easy to get in that when you're on the outside, right? He just fucking dominates. I do think Aiyuk, and there's a toughness to Davante. He doesn't talk about it. You just feel like this guy's tough. Aiyuk has the same kind of mannerisms. Like, I want to go to war with this fucking guy. Like, I want to go to war with Davante Adams. I want to go to war with Brandon Aiyuk. Now, obviously, Adams has done it a lot longer, but I don't see how you watch Aiyuk and his stats in a passing league are not going to be comparable to probably the top 15 guys in the league, but he is. I don't think there are 15 wide receivers the 49ers would trade him for, right?
I agree. I mean, his 9 catches, just looking at his history, his 9 catches ties the second most catches he's had in a game in his career. And the 101 receiving yards is 4th most he's had in his career. 3 of his 4 most productive games in terms of yards have come on the road. At New England, a blowout back in 2020. Well, actually, this Raider game now is up here. It says 107 yards. So there's some discrepancy. This actually has it as his 3rd biggest game. One stat says 101. This thing says 107. But it's one of the biggest games of his career.
I was watching, I had the Patriot game on the volume earlier today, and I think it was Charles Davis and Ian Eagle. And Charles, like, one thing Belichick was saying is that he thinks this year is Tyreek's best season. And he's like, he didn't want to act like he's any different than Kansas City. He said the difference is this year, and it's part of the offense, is Andy, obviously, they're so big on going deep, right? And like deep crossers and shit. Was in McDaniel's offense, they run a lot of slants. They just get the ball to him really quick, right? On a quick hitter, like Kyle does. And Belichick was basically telling him, like, he showed a lot of toughness. And if you watch Tyreek, like, he is not scared. And to me, a toughness element of running slants, like, obviously you're not going to, Steve Atwater and John Lynch are going to take your block off. Still, the physicality of that position, it's not that physical on the outside when you're just one-on-one going up for a ball relative to the game, right? But when you're in a slant position and there are other linebackers there, there's a fearlessness to this guy that obviously Tyreek has, Devontae has, like, that a lot of the great guys have. And you got to have it to be a complete receiver because he can go outside and get open running routes. But, like, he made his hay today, especially when it mattered, going over the middle of the field. Like, you guys probably know I'm going to run a slant here. Like, and you ain't going to be able to cover me. Again, he's not playing, I'm trying to think of the great Raider corners, Namdi or Charles, but
Rod Woodson.
Yeah, I mean, he's been like, I think top to, I don't think he's looked any different today than he has on some of his 2-catch games.
Yeah,
he comes to play, and it really started in the offseason when he fucking fought Fred. This guy was on a mission to, like, prove he's an alpha on the squad. Like, he's a team captain next year, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends how many spots Kyle has to go to give a seat to Trey. 12 guys have received a captainship this year.
Remember, Trey didn't get one.
Oh no, is it because he cut it off at 8? What was the deal?
Yeah, he's like, cut it off at 8. Easily could have been 9. He had a lot of votes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great point. He actually has more games where you feel him more than the box score, where it's like, man, Aiyuk was not everywhere, but Aiyuk had a big impact, and you look and it's like 4 catches for 75. But He is an all business guy. It's why his tweet last week or his Instagram post at Devontae, like, go stand with your boy, was kind of even that felt out of character. But he just feels like he's in a very good place. And I think the thing you would say about him and Devontae, whatever tiers you want to put him on, and it's hard to find exactly where Brandon's spot is, they really help their quarterbacks, right? Like Brandon Aiyuk makes his quarterback better. And I think having a guy that you can trust over the middle to get open, that's what made it a little dicey sometimes with Jimmy, is you still had to make the throw, not airmail the ball. And him and Purdy are locked in together. Purdy hits him in stride all the time so far.
Listen, a lot of people, Devontae's got made fun of a lot on the internet, right, for leaving to go to this shit show, and rightfully so. Like, he chose. Historically, with the Raiders, when that guy goes there, they become irrelevant. They suck. He's got 95 catches, 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns. Like, Devontae hasn't derailed his Hall of Fame chances. He's gone to a place where his best friend got benched. The franchise was in shambles. And you know what? I think he's earned, like, listen, did he make a bad decision? Yes, but he hasn't flinched. It's like, hey, motherfuckers, throw me the pill. Remember, it was like,
he made a bad decision for winning. It hasn't affected his, like you said, his production at all. It's made him in a weird way.
Was it you or Pat Hill that told the story of Jim McElwain's when he went to coach with the Raiders and he'd call routes for Randy Moss? And Randy's like, yeah, I don't run the deep end cut here, buddy.
That must have been Pat. It wasn't me. That's a good story.
I think he told all the Frozen State guys that when he went there and they would call plays, maybe it was when the dirt was still there. Like, yeah, bro, I ain't running.
I do remember that he would not run on the dirt. Yeah.
But I think he specifically told them on top of that, there were some routes and it was just, but that no one even held that against him at the grand scheme of things, right? I was like, oh, it's just the Raiders. And if Devontae wanted to do what he said today, no one would even have blamed him. Like, in solidarity with his boy, but he showed up today. I feel Aiyuk is cut from that same cloth, and I like that in my players. Like, there's just not much BS with them. They're not divas. They're just fucking there to play. Now, Devontae's been doing it a long time, but think about this. They're both, Devontae's from the Packers with like the highly craziness with Aaron Rodgers, and he just kind of handled it. Aiyuk, who feels actually a little crazier than Devontae. Like, that moment with Fred Warner was a pretty high level. Like, I got a little crazy in me, motherfuckers, and I ain't scared of shit.
John's talking about, we've mentioned it a lot, but a practice play in which Fred clocked a guy. We were there, and Brandon came running from across the field to start a fight.
Well, he fought him twice in 3 reps.
Well, that's right. That was after there had already been. There had been some shit talking leading up to that practice, hadn't there been?
Yeah, because Fred called him like his little brother, and he's like,
Fred had tapped him on the head or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just this guy. You remember going to OTAs and just seeing the way he carried himself? Like,
I do.
Where was Debo? Oh, nowhere to be found.
Well, there were.
Was that his trade request? Yeah.
When then there were times where like,
Debo ever roll that back or just pretend like that didn't happen?
What's that?
The trade request?
Yeah, I thought you don't believe that it ever happened.
Well, I don't think he ever acknowledged it or anything. He just kind of came and went.
Kind of the way to do things now. But there were times where you'd watch the receiver drills, I remember early, where Aiyuk was all, whatever. People always make a lot of this, like, who's in front? Well, Aiyuk was always. But he's carried himself this way for a few years. Like, he's just a very...
He was good last year.
Honestly, kind of to the point where I believe that, Shanahan's narrative on Aiyuk being in the doghouse is not that he was mad that Brandon was misbehaving. It's that Brandon debuted in the NFL in the COVID year, right?
His 3rd year, yep.
Didn't get as much practice, like just didn't quite understand because there wasn't a preseason, there was less camp or whatever the deal. I don't remember exactly. But Kyle's ultimate...
Well, there was no off-season training camp that started.
So Kyle's ultimate kind of explanation, the narrative that he puts out there, is that it wasn't that Brandon did something wrong so much as he was behind because he didn't quite understand what was required of him, but he was never a screw around guy or wasn't taking it seriously or anything. And the more Brandon's career I watched, the more I kind of believe Kyle that it wasn't about Brandon being a screw around guy.
He did mention some stuff a couple weeks ago. I wonder if the Welker and his relationship was kind of weird and rocky, and maybe Kyle sided with Welker early on, and then I think maybe he shifted to be Aiyuk, and then wasn't a big Welker guy. I do think there's some more as time goes on to look into that historically. there might have been a little something.
Yeah.
About 17 Niner coaches whenever I watch a Dolphins game, and he's one of them.
And it feels like he was always leaving with whoever left first or next, I guess.
Yeah.
Like Kyle, you can stop the wide receiver coach from going. He didn't stop him.
Nope. Peace.
Devontae, 14 touchdowns now, leads the NFL, by the way. That's 2 more than Kelsey. That's 4 more than Diggs. You know who's 4th in the NFL in touchdown receptions? Scored one today.
What team? Give it away, huh?
Yeah. Amari.
I did see someone tweet today, like, Amari Sneaky having a massive year.